Welcome, my friends, to a place where we share inspiration and positivity. Hello, dear viewers. Get ready to expand your horizons as we delve into Bruno Maderna. Bruno Maderna, born Bruno Grossato, 21 April 1920, 13 November 1973, was an Italian composer, conductor and academic teacher. In the following segment, we'll be examining life in greater detail. Maderna was born Bruno Grossato in Venice but later decided to take the name of his mother, Caterina Carolina Maderna. At the age of 4 he began studying the violin with his grandfather. My grandfather thought that if you could play the violin you could then do anything, even become the biggest gangster. If you play the violin you are always sure of a place in heaven. As a child he played several instruments: violin, drums and accordion in his father's small variety band. A child prodigy, in the early 30s he was not only performing violin concertos, he was already conducting orchestral concerts, first with the Orchestra of La Scola in Milan, then in Trieste, Venice, Padua and Verona. He was originally Jewish. Orphaned at the age of 4, Maderna was adopted by a wealthy woman from Verona, Irma Manfredi, who saw to that he received a solid musical education. He took private lessons in harmony and musical composition from Arrigo Pedro from 1935 until 1937 and studied composition with Alessandro Bustini at the Rome Conservatory from 1937 until 1940. After Rome he returned to Venice, where he attended the advanced course for composers organized by Gianfrancesco Malipiro at the Benedetto Marcello Conservatory. His concerto for piano and orchestra dates from this time. He also studied conducting with Antonio Guarnieri at the Accademia Chigiana in Siena 1941 and Hermann Scherchen in Venice 1948. Through Scherchen, Maderna discovered 12-tone technique and the music of the Second Viennese School. During the Second World War he took part in the partisan resistance. From 1948 to 1952 he taught music theory at the Venice Conservatory. During this period he collaborated with Malipiro on critical editions of Italian early music. Fellow composers he met at this time included Luigi Dalla Piccola and, at the Internationale Ferincas für Neue Musik, Boulez, Messiaen, Cage, Pausser, Nono and Stockhausen. Moving forward, we'll be taking a closer look at conductor teacher. In 1950 Maderna started an international career as a conductor, first in Paris and Munich, then across Europe. In 1955 he founded the Studio di Fonologia Musical di Radio Milano with Luciano Berio and Incontri Musicali, a series of concerts disseminating contemporary music in Italy. With his later wife Beate Christina Kopnick, a young actress from Darmstadt, Maderna had 3 children. At the invitation of Giorgio Federico Ghedini, he taught at the Milan Conservatory, and between 1960 and 1962 he lectured at Dartington International Summer School in England. From 1961 to 1966, Maderna and Pierre Boulez were the main directors of the International Kranichsteiner Kammerensemble in Darmstadt. Despite this heavy workload throughout these years, Maderna found time to compose. During the years he spent much time in the United States, teaching and conducting. He was appointed director of new music at Tanglewood. He became the principal conductor of the Orchestra Sinfonico of RAI in Milan. Maderna died of lung cancer in Darmstadt in 1973, at the age of 53. A number of composers wrote pieces in Maderna's memory, including Pierre Boulez Ritour in Memoriam Bruno Maderna and Luciano Berio Calmo for voice and orchestra. Earl Brown's centering, dedicated to the memory of Maderna, ends with a short quotation from Maderna's first oboe concerto. Let's transition to work and uncover its significance. Maderna composed much music in all genres: instrumental, chamber, concertos and electronic, as well as large amounts of incidental music for theatre and radio and transcriptions and editions of early music. At the heart of Maderna's output are a number of concertos, including 1 for violin, 1 for 2 pianos, 2 for solo piano and several for flute and orchestra. He was particularly drawn to the oboe, composing 3 concertos in all. the first in followed by two more in 1967 and 1973. Other major orchestral works include Aura and Biogramma, both 1967, and Quadrivium, for four percussionists and four orchestral groups, premiered at the 1969 Royan Festival. Giuseppe Sinopoli recorded all three of these pieces with the North German Radio Symphony Orchestra in 1979. Maderna's Requiem, composed between 1944 and 1946, was rediscovered and performed in 2009. The American composer Virgil Thomson saw an unfinished version of the score in 1946 and praised it as a masterpiece. Bruno Maderna also produced scores for 8 films and 2 documentaries. The last of these was for Giulio Questi's thriller La Morte ha fatto l'uovo in 1968. His opera, Satyricon, was premiered in 1973. Maderna was certainly also a prominent composer in genres such as electronic music, experimental music, and avant-garde music. His work Musica su due dimensioni for flute, cymbals, and tape, which premiered at the Darmstadt Summer Courses for New Music in 1952, is one of the earliest examples of a composer combining acoustic and electronic sounds. As we transition, let's shed light on recordings as a conductor and its relevance to our ongoing exploration. Recordings as a conductor: Luna Othelay, una strofa di Dante Radio Sinfonia Chester Wien, ORF, AKM Orff, Bola Bartk, Piano Concerto No. 1 Alfred Brendel, EBCSO, Stradivarius, Alban Berg. Orchesterlieder nach Ansichtkartentexten von Peter Altenburg, Op. For Halina Lukumska, Concertgebouw Orchestra, RCO Liv, 1968. Drie Orkestersk, Op. 6 Sinfonia Chester din Duchen Rundfunks, Arcadia, 1969. Muziekje der Hamburgischen Staatsoper, Orchester der Hamburgischen Staatsoper, Tony Blankenheim, Richard Casilli, Peter Hage, Gerhard Unger, Arthouse Music, 1970. Lulu Orchestra della RAI di Roma, Ilona Stimruba, Eugenia Zarasca, Luisa Ribacci, Maria Teresa, Massa Ferraro, Live 1959, Stradivarius, 1959. Louis Sweet Mary Lindsay, soprano, Suches Rundfunk Sinfonia Chester, Arcadia, a Conrad Boehmer, position WDR Sinfonia Chester Colm, Host, a Pierre Boulez. The Marty Sands Mac Carla Henius, alto, Severino Gazzellini, flute, Dino Asciola, viola, Lunida Tora Bruno, percussion. Stradivarius, 1961. Figures Dabbles Prismes Residenti Orchestre, Stradivarius, 1968. Polyphony ex Orchestra del RAI, Stradivarius, Johannes Brahms, Double Concerto Salvatore Accardo, violin, Siegfried Palm, cello, Orchestra Sinfonica RAI di Roma, Arcadia, I.R.L. Brown, available forms on Panorama della Musica Nuova RCAM LDS 61005, 1964. In Nous, Op. 7 Caprice 2056. Pulgeden No. To Radio Sinfonie Orchester Wien, AKM Orff, Włodzimierz Kotowski, Canto Internationals Kranichsteiner Kammerensemble, Woga Jergility, Adventures Novels Adventures Internationals Kammerensemble Darmstadt, Wogo, a Franz Liszt, Tasso, Lamento e Triunfo Orchestra Sinfonica RAI di Torino, Arcadia, a Witold Lutoshowski, Juvenicians Concertgebouw Orchestre, RCO Liv, a Gustav Moller. Symphony No. 7 Wiener Symphonica, Hunt, 1967. Symphony No. 9 BBCSO, BBC, a Gianfrancesco Malipiro, Sinfonia della Zodiaco Orchestra Sinfonica della RAI di Torino, Ricordi Felix Mendelssohn, Symphony No. 3 Schottisch Concertgebouw Orchestre, RCO Liv, a Claudio Monteverdi, Zorfo Aurelia Dominguez, mezzo-soprano, Barry McDaniel, baritone, Corvan de Nederlandse Opera, Atritz Symphony Orchestre. Holland Festival, a Mozart, Symphony No. 18, KV 130 Orchestra della RAI di Milano, Stradivarius Bo Nilsson, She No. 3. 1961 Internationals Kranichsteiner Kammerensemble, Wergo Luigi Nono, Il Canto Sospisocha and Sinfonia Chester Dinudution Rundfunks, Stradivarius, Erkosistiv Penderecki, Trin Oferum Hiroshimi Orchestra della RAI Roma, Stradivarius, Goffredo Petrasi, Noccoscuracha and Orchester de Hessischen Rundfunks, Stradivarius, Henry Pauser, Rhymes por diferentes sources Sinners on Panorama della Musica Nuova RCAMLDS 61005, Maurice Ravel, Lehigh Spagnol Suzanne Danko, Michelle Hamill, John Cameron, Andrew Vasiris, Jean Gerda, BBCSO, Stradivarius, Arnold Schoenberg, Verklet Nacht, Op. For Wiener Symphonica, Arcadia, 1969. Helles und Melisande, Op. 5 Sinfonia Chester des Westfunks, Arcadia, 1960. 5 Orchestersk, Op. 16 Orchestra della RAI di Torino, Stradivarius. Serenade, Op. Ursuit, Op. 29 Mellows Ensemble of London, Decca, 1962. Variations for Orchestra ab Sinfonia Chester de Westlichen Rundfunks, Arcadia, 1961. Violin Concerto, Op. 36 Christian Edinger, Sinfonie Orchester des Saarländischen Rundfunks, Arcadia, 1971. Chamber Symphony No. 2, Op. 38 Sinfonia Chester des Saarländischen Rundfunks, Arcadia, 1970. Piano Concerto, Op. 42 Alfred Brendel, BBCSO, Stradivarius, 1973. Genesis, Op. 44 Coro e Orchestra della RAI di Roma, Stradivarius, 1960. A Survivor from Warsaw, Op. 46 Goran Kubitsky, Orchestra della RAI di Torino, Stradivarius Rebetschlum, Symphony No. 4, Op. 74 Radio Sinfonia Chester Wien, AKM Orff, Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. Gruppenferdry Orchester Sinfonia Chester de Westlichen Rundfunks, with Stockhausen and Michael Gielen, Deutsche Grammophon, 1968. Contrapunkt on Panorama della Musica Nuova RCAMLDS 61005, Arriva Stravinsky, Le Sacre du Printemps Orchestra della RAI di Milano, Stradivarius Edgardvus. Deserts Concertgebouorchest, RCO Live, 1968. Unisation Concertgebouorchest, RCO Live, a Richard Wagner, Siegfried Idle Residens Orchester Den Haag, Arcadia, Anton Webern. 6 Stock for Orchester, Op. 6 Orchestri dell'RAI di Torino, Stradivarius, 1961. Via Lieder, Op. 13 Halina Lukumska Concertgebouorchest, RCO Live, 1968. 6 Lieder, Op. 14 Dorothy Doro, Mellows Ensemble, Stradivarius, 1961. Concerto, Op. 24 Mellows Ensemble, Stradivarius, 1961. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.